I never imagined that a simple favor for Emma would turn into one of the most unforgettable nights of my life. Emma and I had known each other for years, not exactly best friends, but close enough to share secrets, laughter, and the occasional crisis. So when she called me one evening with a strange request, I didn't hesitate to say yes, even though a small voice in my head warned me that this night wouldn't be ordinary. She asked me to come to a party with her, a party where her ex Jake would be present, not just to show up, but to play the role of her friend, someone who could be by her side and shield her from the awkwardness and tension that Jake's presence inevitably brought. Emma's voice was tinged with anxiety, a fragile mixture of hope and fear. She wasn't just asking for company. She was asking for protection, for someone to stand beside her when old wounds threatened to reopen. I could sense the weight of her emotions through the phone, the vulnerability she tried so hard to hide behind her usual confident facade. It was clear that this wasn't just about a party or a casual encounter. It was about something deeper, something unresolved between Emma and Jake that haunted her more than she let on. Despite my hesitation, I promised her I would be there. I didn't fully understand what role I was stepping into or how drastically that night would change everything between us, including how I saw myself. The night air was thick with a buzz of excitement and the faint scent of rain, as I pulled up outside the house where the party was already in full swing. Music thumped through the walls, a steady beat that vibrated through my chest and stirred a mix of anticipation and unease inside me. Emma was waiting at the doorstep, her usual bright smile softened by a flicker of nervousness that I hadn't seen before. The house was alive, lights casting warm glows through the windows, laughter spilling out into the street, and groups of people gathered in clusters, deep in conversation or lost in the rhythm of the night. As we stepped inside, I caught sight of Jake almost immediately. He was leaning against the kitchen counter, that effortless charm on full display, chatting with a small group but constantly scanning the room. His eyes landed on Emma, and I could see the brief flicker of something, maybe regret or irritation, before he masked it with a confident smirk. Emma pulled me aside, whispering hurried instructions. "Just be my friend," she said, her voice low but steady. "Act like we're close. Keep him away." It was simple enough on paper, but standing there, surrounded by strangers and the undercurrent of old memories, I realized this was going to be much harder than I thought. I moved with her through the crowd, playing the role she asked of me, the best friend who had her back no matter what. Emma introduced me casually to her circle, my presence like a shield, making Jake shift uncomfortably in his spot. I noticed the way people looked at us, intrigued by this new dynamic, and the way Emma's posture softened, the tension in her shoulders easing just a little. But beneath the surface, I could still feel the lingering pain in her eyes, a silent reminder of the heartbreak she was trying to hide. The party was more than just a social gathering. It was a battleground of emotions, old wounds, and unspoken words. And somehow, I was right in the middle of it. Emma pulled me aside to a quieter corner of the crowded room, away from the laughter and music. Her eyes searched mine, full of a mixture of hope and desperation. "I need you to be more than just someone to hang out with tonight," she said softly. "I want you to be my shield. When Jake tries to come close, I want you to stand by me, act like my best friend, someone who belongs in my world and who makes him feel like he's lost his place." Her words weighed heavily in the air. It wasn't just about keeping Jake at a distance. It was about reclaiming control over a story that hadn't ended well for her. I could see the vulnerability she tried so hard to hide, the part of her that still feared rejection and humiliation. She was asking me to be her armor, and I didn't want to let her down. I nodded, even though deep inside, I wondered if I was ready for what the night might bring. Emma explained that Jake had been a part of her life for years, but their relationship ended bitterly, with more questions than answers. Seeing him now was like reopening a wound she wasn't sure was ready to heal. But as she spoke, I realized this wasn't just about protecting her from Jake. It was about showing her that she wasn't alone, that she could have someone by her side who saw her worth and wouldn't let her be overshadowed by her past. "I'm here for you," I said, and meant it. Little did either of us know. The night would unfold far beyond the simple plan she laid out, and I would soon find myself stepping out of the shadows and into the spotlight, becoming the unexpected hero of the story. As the night deepened, the tension in the room thickened like a storm about to break. Jake's eyes kept drifting toward Emma, and I could feel the silent challenge in his gaze whenever he noticed me by her side. The moment finally came when he decided to approach us, his confident stride cutting to the crowd like a sharp knife. "Hey, Emma," he said with that familiar, smug smile. "I didn't expect to see you here tonight." His voice was casual, but there was an edge to it, like he was testing the waters. Emma stiffened beside me, her smile flickering for just a second before she forced it back. "Jake," she replied coolly, "this is my friend. We're hanging out tonight." Her words were polite but firm, a clear signal that the old dynamic wasn't going to be the same. Jake turned his gaze toward me, sizing me up with a barely concealed sneer. "So this is your new best friend?" he asked, a hint of sarcasm dripping from his tone. "Funny, I don't remember you being around." I felt a surge of protectiveness rise within me. "We've known each other a long time," I said evenly, standing a little taller. "And I'm here tonight because Emma wanted me here." The conversation was a dance of unspoken tensions. Jake tried to charm his way in, but there was something bitter lurking beneath the surface. Jealousy, regret, or maybe even frustration that Emma was moving on without him. He threw subtle insults masked as jokes, trying to unsettle both of us. Emma's hands trembled slightly, but she stayed close to me, drawing strength from my presence. I realized that I couldn't just play the role of a passive fake friend. This was bigger. It was about standing up for Emma and for myself. I decided to shift the energy. Instead of backing down, I met Jake's arrogance with calm confidence. I refused to let him make the night uncomfortable or force Emma into the shadows again. The party had suddenly changed. What started as a simple favor was turning into a showdown, one where I wasn't just a bystander anymore. I was stepping into the spotlight, ready to challenge everything Jake thought he could control. The energy in the room shifted noticeably after my quiet confrontation with Jake. It wasn't loud or dramatic, no explosive arguments or shouting matches, but something had changed. The subtle power dynamics had flipped. I could see it in the way people glanced at us now, whispers weaving through the crowd like a current, curiosity sparked by the unexpected tension. Jake, who had previously dominated the space with his confident swagger, was beginning to falter. His easy charm seemed less convincing, and the smirk that usually played on his lips had softened into something more guarded. He tried to maintain control, but the weight of his past with Emma and the strength I now projected were undeniable forces that kept him in check. Emma's eyes met mine for the first time that night, without that flicker of fear or doubt. Instead, there was a softness, a spark of gratitude that warmed me in a way I hadn't anticipated. "Thank you," she whispered when we found a quieter corner away from prying eyes. I didn't realize how much I needed this. We talked openly about her pain, about the years she had spent trapped between hope and heartache, about the strength it took to finally say no to someone who had once meant everything. For the first time, Emma wasn't hiding behind a mask of confidence or pretending the wounds didn't hurt. She was real, raw, and I felt honored to be the one she trusted in that moment. As our conversation deepened, I noticed a change in myself too. I wasn't just playing a role anymore. I was becoming someone who mattered in her story. The fake friend facade melted away, replaced by genuine connection and a quiet courage I hadn't realized I possessed. When Jake approached us again later that evening, his attempts to regain footing were met with calm resistance. I stood beside Emma, no longer just her shield but her partner in this unspoken battle. The crowd watched as I held my ground, and slowly, support began to shift. People who had been silent spectators started to engage, their eyes reflecting a newfound respect. It was clear that this night wasn't just about Emma and Jake anymore. It was about reclaiming dignity, rewriting the narrative, and embracing the unexpected roles life sometimes hands us. By the time the party was winding down, I had stepped fully into the spotlight, no longer a background character, but the main force in the story about strength, friendship, and transformation. And in that moment, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. The air grew thick with anticipation as Jake made one last attempt to reclaim the night, and perhaps Emma's attention. The room seemed to hold its breath, the music fading into the background as everyone sensed something was about to unfold. Jake's usual confidence was now edged with frustration. His jaw clenched as he approached us again. You think you can just take her away with a few words? Jake sneered, voice low but sharp enough for the nearest ears to catch. Emma and I have history. You don't know anything about that. I looked at him steadily, refusing to back down. Maybe I don't know your history, I said quietly but firmly, but I do know that Emma deserves respect. And right now you're the one showing none. Jake's eyes flashed with anger, but before he could respond, Emma stepped forward, surprising me with her sudden boldness. Enough, Jake, she said, voice clear and unwavering. I'm done with all this. The past is the past. You don't get to decide who I spend my time with or how I live my life. The crowd around us started murmuring, the atmosphere charged with a mix of shock and admiration. For the first time, Emma wasn't hiding behind anyone. She was standing tall, owning her truth. I felt a surge of pride, knowing I had helped her find this strength. Jake's expression twisted, a mix of defeat and disbelief. You think you've won, he spat. This isn't over. But the room had already shifted. Friends who had watched silently before now stepped forward, offering quiet support to Emma and me. The balance of power had clearly changed, and Jake's words lost their bite. I decided to seize the moment, speaking directly to everyone around. Tonight isn't about old grudges or broken relationships. It's about recognizing when it's time to move forward and to support those who choose to do so. People nodded, some even clapping softly, the energy turning from tense to hopeful. Emma smiled at me, a genuine smile that lit up her face in a way I hadn't seen before. Jake, realizing his time was up, finally retreated into the shadows of the party, defeated not by loud fights but by quiet strength and unwavering support. As the night continued, Emma and I became the center of attention for all the right reasons. We laughed, danced, and talked with friends new and old, no longer defined by the ghosts of the past, but by the promise of what was yet to come. That night, I didn't just play a fake friend. I became the main character in a story of courage, resilience, and unexpected connection. And that made all the difference. As the party began to wind down and the crowd thinned, the weight that had been pressing on Emma's shoulders all night seemed to lift. The tense atmosphere that had hung over us since Jake's arrival faded into something lighter, almost hopeful. We found ourselves outside, the cool night air a refreshing contrast to the heat and noise inside. Emma looked at me with a soft, grateful smile. Thank you, she said quietly. Not just for tonight, but for showing me that I don't have to hide or pretend anymore. I smiled back, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. You never had to do that. I told her, you're stronger than you think, and you deserve to be seen for who you really are. We stood there for a moment, sharing a silence filled with unspoken understanding. The night had started as a simple favor, a chance to play a role in a story that wasn't mine. But it ended up becoming something much more profound, a turning point for both of us. I realized then that sometimes the roles we think we're playing aren't the ones that truly define us. Sometimes, life pushes us into the spotlight when we least expect it, revealing strengths we didn't know we had and forging connections that change us forever. As we said our goodbyes, there was a new kind of warmth between us, a bond forged not by pretense, but by honesty and support. I knew that no matter what happened next, this night would remain a memory we both carried with us. Walking away from that house, I felt different, more confident, more aware of the power of friendship, and ready to embrace whatever story came next. Sometimes, life surprises you by turning a simple favor into a defining moment. What began as playing a fake friend became a journey of courage, truth, and unexpected connection. That night, I stepped out of the shadows and into the light, not just as Emma's friend, but as someone who discovered their own strength. In the end, it wasn't about the past or the ex who tried to cast a shadow. It was about embracing the present and the people who choose to stand by you. And that made all the difference.